Okay, are you recording? Okay, welcome everybody to the Friday meetup of the AACG Zoom conference here, however you call it. We are very pleased to have this many participants, 320 signed up, so we'll see how many get here. They'll come in late, so when everyone's enter, they are muted. To give you an idea of what's happening today, just to give you a quick overlay, the first half hour, we're gonna have Aaron discussing the Imagine Museum, the other events that are happening during the Glass Coast weekend, and also the viral glass show that is coming that we'll tell you about. After that, I'll be coming in just to tell you a tiny bit about Glasstress because we'll hear more on that later. And then we will I'm going to show you how the piece I made for Glasstress was made during COVID overseas while all this is going on, just to give you kind of an insight into these international productions of work. And for the final hour, Larry Siebrich's going to come on right after I finish and tell a little bit about membership. And he's going to introduce the Boca Raton Museum, who are going to take us on a fantasy ride through their collection and the Glasstress show. So that is what to expect today. If you have any questions at all, since everyone's muted, don't unmute to ask the question if you can try not to. There will be questions after each of these segments, so you can come in and we'll let people talk if they want to. In the meantime, if you have questions, if you put them in the chat box, Larry's got an eagle eye, he's gonna watch for those, and anything that comes up, he'll try to ask as it goes along. So without further ado, I introduce you to Aaron Shea, the current director of Habitat Gallery.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. And it's an honor to be here with the AACG. And this is a fantastic event with a great response and a great part of the Glass Coast weekend. Many of you have signed up for that weekend, and we invite the rest of you who have yet to sign up. It is a multiple Zoom weekend trying to share glass, what we all know and love. And we partnered here with Imagine Museum. We partnered with the Boca Raton Museum. We partnered with the Fort Wayne Museum of Art to create just an extravaganza on something new and different. And we're honored to have you all. The Glass Coast weekend continues. I'll kind of get into that as I start my presentation today. And it's just an amazing time to be alive. The Splash exhibition, Splash 2021, is now online. I'll cover that in the presentation. It's at glasscoastweekend.com. I've emailed many of you. Those who aren't aware of it, I'll put a link in the chat sooner or later when I get done with my part of the presentation for you to check out. Thanks again for being here, and I'm going to start by taking over your screen and showing this presentation. And hopefully we'll be able to get through it without any props. And make sure I have control for sharing sound. So Glass Coast Weekend is up. We welcome you to sign up if you haven't already. And we'll show the first little blip here that they put together for production celebrating the weekend.
Here's this Habitat Galleries. Hurry up.
That was the fun blip, and let's get going. So Glass Coast Weekend, still time to sign up. Just going to cover what's going on after this meeting. Many of you are aware already about this meeting. There is a presentation at 4 p.m. for Glass Coast Weekend people who have signed up for the weekend, celebrating Peter Bremmer's My Life as an Artist. He's in this Zoom joining us. We're honored to have him. I'm looking forward to that talk. Peter is an amazing speaker, an amazing artist, and amazing talent. Go ahead and try to find somebody who's talking, please unmute them. Tomorrow, we have some more events going on. We'll be going 11 a.m. to the Fort Wayne Museum of Art virtually to meet with Charles Shepard to talk about our future and our expansion. They are loving glass in the middle of the country in Indiana, and they are expanding and collecting, and it's a great place to be. And Charles is a true visionary, and we're honored to have him as part of our Habitat family, and we invite you to that. There is a 1 p.m. Habitat Now splash. This is where we go over the show more in depth, and we'll invite the artists from the show to come talk about their work. We kind of did this in the past, and it's a lot of fun and a great place to ask questions and experience the artists. We can't be next to them in real life, but it's as close as we can get via Zoom. Right after that, we're going to be taking some virtual home tours. This is a lot of fun. These were provided by AACG, as well as another group that escapes my mind will come back to me. We're going to visit the home of Hal and Myra Weiss, the home of Dennis and Barbara Dubois, and Fred and Susan Sanders. Should be a lot of fun, all virtual. Best we can do during this for this kind of event. And this was streamed originally during SOFA. Many of us didn't see it, and it's definitely worth seeing again. And then last and best, we're going to be having the Fire and Light Gala promoted by the Imagine Museum. Imagine Jane Buckman's on, the director right now. She's working hard creating this event virtually. It's going to have all kinds of bells and whistles, and it's going to be a lot of fun experiencing glass in an event like this, celebrating the Carnivale. So bring your mask. I know you have a couple laying around, but you might have some more elaborate ones. I have one or two, I'm sure here we'll have some fun. So that's the breakdown, quick breakdown. So some quick homework here. We just had our last auction. I think it was yesterday. Wow, time flies. And it was quite successful. We sold a good amount of work online, found some new homes for people. Some pieces, like Debbie just called me and said, are going to Europe from people who acquired pieces from outside the country. And we're going to start another auction. We're planning for March 25th. So if you have anything you're looking to consign, contact me. Else put that date in your calendar. We're looking forward to finding some amazing pieces to put up to the highest bidder. I've mentioned this earlier. So Splash Habitat Now, we're having a talk. This is the promo piece for that, about Splash with the artist tomorrow at 1 o'clock. It's part of Glass Coast Weekend, so make sure to sign up so you can be part of that. I do these talks every single Saturday with artists from around the world. All these talks are posted on our Habitat Now page, visiting artists like Steve Lynn, Clifford Rainey, Davide Salvadori, Martin Blank, Tim Tate, Peter Bremers, so Paul Stankard. It's an amazing collection of the history of studio glass now. And because of the pandemic we're in, we're able to record this for history. And I'm really grateful that all these artists are jumped on board and be part of this. So check those out and share them socially, because it's a way of getting the word out for the medium we all know and love. Splash is online. So here we go. So I'm going to go over some pieces in the exhibition. I want you to please check out the show at glasscoastweekend.com and explore the works. There's something there for everybody. Things are already selling. The Laura Donaford piece, she managed to finish one piece for the show. It already sold within minutes of the webpage opening this morning at 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock. So definitely check out the page and explore the work by these artists that have created work using glass in color, specializing in color. So a small sample we'll go through. Shelley Allen just finished this piece called, I think it's Celadonna Dagger. Just came into the email of like yesterday when she got the piece finished, able to put up. It's so interesting in this time, being able to share work by artists from their studio right away. And they're so on board that they know that this work could sell, it could ship right to your home. And it's amazing that the artists are able to do this with us. Beautiful work, horsehair, 21 inches tall. Shelley's such a talent. We have a show scheduled for her later this year, probably virtual, but it's just great to see something new that they're able to complete at this time. Michael Behrens from Germany, beautiful blue kiln cast work. Many of you have his work. I own both a Shelley Allen and a Michael Behrens in my personal collection. Worked and studied under Peter Bremers, who's receiving the award from Imagine, able to create such beautiful work inspired by his life, scuba diving, the ocean. Has such a movement to it. He's such a talent, and he's one of the hardest working artists in working today. And this is just a sample. There's more works available online. Just giving you an idea of 18.5 inches tall. Just he's so talented, and it's just, I'm grateful to have him in our family. Alex Bernstein. So Alex, many of you follow him on social media. He's just working on some new bodies of work, and they're so new. I don't have the details. You can see up on top, it says details soon. And he's creating these beautiful like fin whale tail type of pieces. They are stunning. I'm eager to learn more about him, but I could not just share one. You know, Alex is like a third generation glass artist, developed a technique of connecting metal to glass while the glass is cold. And he loves telling the story that he destroyed his father's artwork one day while grinding metal. Some metal flew across while he was just grinding metal, flew across and landed on his parents' work, and it stuck into the glass. The little pieces of metal were so hot, they just fused in. And now he created this process called Bernsteining. And it's just amazing to see. He incorporates it in some of his work, but they're inspired by nature. And he's just an amazing talent we have in our family. Peter Bremers, who's here, he'll be talking more about his work Saturday. I want to show a couple of pieces from his presentation because it's just so impressive. His scale, his ability to push the medium beyond belief. And it's just inspired by his world travel. We've done a Habitat Zoom talking with Peter. He's an amazing person to talk to. So please come and join us at 4 o'clock for his talk to really dive into his world. I'll be there. I'm looking forward to it. And he's multiple hardcover books. He's an amazing talent and definitely should be part of everybody's art collection. Our buddy Dale Chihuly. I always say that people start collecting glass with Dale Chihuly and John Kuhn, and it's a great gateway into finding out artwork and artists that you love. And this particular piece is available through the secondary market. We do resale stuff that we talked about with the auction. This is from the Michael and Annie Belkin collection out of Ohio. They were founders and early presidents in the AACG. Many of you know them or knew of them. And we have their entire collection available for sale. So it's splash, you got to include color. Chihuly's a master of it, so he's in the show along with some other works. IRDS, this is a husband and wife couple that have been working for decades in Czech Republic, but many of our clients here in America do not know about them. And they have multiple bodies of work, casting and laminating and polishing. The talk I'm doing on Saturday has different images. I have one of their laminated pieces in that presentation. We did a Zoom with them. We sold like 7 pieces from the Zoom. So they're really exciting artists to be have your eye on. They're amazingly talented. They do commissions as well, drawings. We're grateful to have them in the show. And it's just, I love this piece too. It's just so stunning in color and tone. This is the piece I was just talking about, just sold from the Glass Coast Weekend website. Laura's obviously in demand. She is recovering from a hand injury, so she was able to finish one piece for us, probably one-handed. I didn't force her, I promise. She worked by herself to get the work done and photographed for our show, and it just recently sold. And we're honored to have her in our family. Been showing her for decades, and we always sell out of her work. They're just so fun. They look just like her. Many of you know Laura. She'll be with us again on Saturday to talk about this piece. Wilfried Gruten's from Germany. Many of you have seen Wilfried's work, and those of you who haven't really need to see it in person. These are laminated and hand-painted glass cubes. The artist works in multiple formats, cubes and spheres and plates and egg shapes, and these are just stunning. You put them on a, like, for lack of a better term, a spinning table, and the design slowly disappears as you turn it because each piece is hand-painted on each panel. We do really well with his work, and most recently he started doing wall panels, flat artwork, which are multiple layers that go up on your wall, and those are beautiful as well. And it really, it's great to see the artists explore into a new kind of style that still represents their body of work. And like I said, we do really well with Wilfried Gruten here at Habitat. Peter Hora, had a long relationship with Peter Hora for many, many decades. It's great to say that, you know, to show how great the relationship's been with these artists in the Habitat family and how great we've worked together. The Habitat Gallery was founded in 1971 by Ferdinand Hampson, and he bestowed it to both Corey and I in 2013. And it's great to continue on his legacy with not only the gallery, but the partnerships that he started and the trust that he's created. And Peter is an amazing talent. Many of you have his work. Cast glass pieces, all shapes and forms. He recently created a body of work of maquettes celebrating all the pieces he's ever made in a miniature style. And we're going to be creating a website dedicated just to those. And some of you saw them last year before the COVID hit when we were in Sarasota for Glass Coast Weekend, and got to see some of them at the Hampson Gallery down there. And they are still available and working with Lucas Hora and Peter Hora to create more in this body of work. Definitely an important artist to have in your collection. I'm sure many of you do. David Hutchhausen, Seattle-based artist. Earlier today, we showed a history of studio glass video that AACG produced. And it kind of, many of you have seen it, about Harvey Littleton and who studied under him and how glass came into fruition, where Harvey Leafgreen was the guy who taught them how to blow, Dominic Labino, the mad scientist who created the glass, and the students that came in the 1962 class. And then it starts to flow from there, who studied under who. And David Hutchhausen is one of those students, been showing it at Habitat for a long time, creating beautiful works. And we do still really sell really well with him. And he's definitely an important part to have in your collection. A very historic artist, different bodies of work, sometimes comes up at auction as well. So something to think about. Michael Janus. This is an amazing piece. So the story was for this one is my wife was turning 40, and I contacted Michael with a picture of a painting my wife loved. And I asked Michael to create a piece in homage of that picture out of glass in his style. I let him go. I said, just do what you want to do. He gave me one choice. He goes, do you like ambers or do you like blues? And I said, I like blues. And she likes blues because she has blue eyes. So he created a piece for me that she loves, and I've shown it in previous videos, and you can see it probably in one of the Zooms. But this is the first sister piece to that body of work, celebrating, the emotions that my wife had when she first saw this picture. And Michael's continuing this body of work. I know he's doing a man piece coming up next. This is simply stunning. I used it in an ad here locally in Michigan to get people to come to the Glass Coast weekend. Wall mounted. It's fused glass. Look at those colors. Just beautiful. I can imagine most of you would enjoy this piece. Right behind you, where this one is on me. Michael's an amazing talent. He's also part of our Not Grandma's Glass show with a partner of his. We'll talk more about that later. Here's a detailed shot. See it a touch closer. And as the world turns and new artists come around, we recently discovered, as of last year, I think the end of 2020 or to the end, early 2020, late 2019, we discovered these two artists, Ekin and Joshua, who are based out of Kalamazoo, creating work in this beautiful style. We've been promoting them nonstop. They're starting to get attention from other galleries, which is great. These are blown forms that are carved down to get these beautiful cityscapes. They remind me of Jay Musler's cityscapes work, but these look like these probably are a lot more laborious, being Jay Musler actually bought giant test tubes, cut them, and carved the cityscapes and painted them. These are all made from scratch, stay freestand, and are beautiful. And I have a detailed shot just to give you a glimpse of the depth between the two layers, because it's blown into a bubble. Many of you have seen this, and carved down, and there's a base to keep them standing. And I'm real excited about their work, and they're priced really well as they're just started their career in the glass community. John Kiley's work, I've seen a couple Zooms where people have visited his studio. Insanely talented, just finished building a new studio, exploring color, exploring space and negative space. We're happy to have him in the show because, he is a true master of color and a true visionary. So check out his work on the Glass Coast Weekend site. And then here we go, John Kuhn. So we reached out to John, and it was actually a conversation I had with Paul Stenker to bring him into the show. We reached out to him to see what he was working on, what he had available. And he has some new pieces and this old historic piece from his current reserves. A big tower called Sheltered Spirit, 27 inches tall. There's been some turmoil in his life, but he's unable to create work like this ever again. This is a masterpiece, and it is priced just forewarning you, but it is a beautiful piece, and he's great to work with. And I'm glad that he's part of this exhibition because he is a true master of color. These works take tons of time to do. Cut and polish, and laminate glass, cut and polish, laminate glass. And there's a few on the site for you to select should you be interested. Steve Lynn's work. Steve is an artist that's been a part of the Habitat family for a long time. Steve does work in homage of people or groups of people sometimes who create a rippling effect for people in the future who really appreciate what they do. This is a piece we had in our space, in our Habitat Prime space pop-up in SoFa, Chicago. And this piece is an homage of someone named Vess Klein, who I need to learn more about at the moment. But
Yves Klein.
Thank you, Corey. And it just shows his artist talent to think outside the box. And it's great to include him in the show, exploring color. And this piece lays on the floor. It has a chimney and a gentleman, Yves Klein, jumping straight out. Go check his page out, learn more. We love to connect you also with Steve. If you have an idea of someone you're thinking of to create a work in homage of, maybe you know somebody or you're thinking of somebody, he has new bodies of work available also at the gallery. And I know he's on, so hi, Steve. Marlena Rose, many of you know her work, Sandcast. I call Marlena the hardest working woman in the glass business because she really works hard. During the non-pandemic, she's always doing shows. She's always out there. She has an amazing mailing list she reaches out to. She creates such beautiful things. And this is a newer body of work to her called Talking Heads, about the communication between people. Now we're talking through Zoom. In the past, we're face to face. And it's just something we take for granted every day, that she's kind of exploring different ideas in each person's head. And this is a very fun talking piece. And she does other work in homage of Buddhas and colors. And she's a great one to work on with commissions as well. And you'll see a different work during the talk on tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And Paul, of course, Paul Stinker we do really well with and sell a lot of his work. You know, Paul's a true visionary. He's a poet at heart. He's not an artist. He says, I'm a poet who creates, and he creates an homage of people. This particular one is in homage of Walt Whitman. We've done a visit to his studio. We've done a couple talks with him through different Zooms, and it's great to dive into his head. This new work, which I have a second picture of, is entirely new. So Paul has, in his 80s, created an entirely new technique that encapsulates the figures in the center. So when he creates these figures, there's a small amount of a loss or movement that happens during the process of the vacuum casting, which he encases it in clear glass. Because he puts these figures in the center like this, inside of a capsule of the foliage, they're more protected. And so he's having an amazing time exploring this new technique because it's working out perfectly. And this is probably the very first piece that's in our show available from this new body, this new series that really explores, you know, this new technique and what you're used to seeing with Paul's work. This work is about 4 inches by 4 inches by 4 inches, a little bit less, but this is something you could stare at for days. And we've gotten a lot of requests lately for people who want to acquire Paul's work to gift for people who are starting off to glass collecting. It's a great a person to start with because you can kind of get the concept of paperweight. A little known fact is Paul was working with glass before Harvey Littleton, because in the paperweight community, but he is still working, and definitely check out his Zoom and check out his stuff on the Glass Coast weekend. Tim, I had to throw out a Tim special because Tim's here running the show, and I appreciate it, Tim. Beautiful new work. We've had long conversations about this particular piece and this process of exploring his endless mirror work. This one is bathed in gold. It's true majestic royalty. And we're honored to have it in this exhibition. Tim's always perfecting his techniques. And I gave him another shot too with this other piece along with the detail to show like how much time and patience goes into creating these things. And look at that luster on those roses. This could be behind your chair in your office. Everybody would bow upon entry. I just love Tim's work. Thanks for being part of this today, Tim. A newer artist that we've been showing, Katrina Weintraub, exploring fun things. These are fun objects she's making. I did recently acquire one of these for my wife for Christmas, believe it or not. I loved her work, and we sold out quickly at the Sarasota event, Glass Coast weekend last year, and so she's making more. This one is 14 inches tall, but the spacing varies, and this kind of thing could go somewhere in your house and be enjoyed forever. Beautiful, fun work. She's also working on some of our limiteds, which are smaller edition pieces that are made to order. They're on the website under limited. Feel free to explore. Randy Walker is an artist that I've known about for a long time and had an opportunity to invite to the show. Organic forms. He also creates these beautiful leaves. This is a great artist to have in the show because he explores color, both natural, you know, browns and yellows, and explores fun ones, blue. And it took me a while to get a hold of him to get him into the show, but I made it happen, and his work is available on the site, and we're honored to have him, and they're actually priced pretty well. And then Vivian Wang, we have an exclusive with Vivian Wang for her City Kids, which are these children created during the era of Vivian Wang's youth in America, which was the 50s. A lot of these children wear clothes that she really dreamt about wearing in her lifetime as a youth. And she does an amazing amount of work with these things. They're cast glass with with a metal base, and it's got a clay body that she hand paints. Each piece is made uniquely, and these sell out pretty fast. So if you're thinking about a Vivian Wang, this is one of the nicer ones. We have another amazing one up on the website as well in the City Kids series. So definitely check it out. And that wraps up the small taste of glasscoastweekend.com. I advise you to please come check out the site. It's open to the end of February. I just want to run into a couple extra things before I leave you for the Boca presentation, which I'm looking forward to. The Glass 49 exhibition is going to be Habitat Direct. We're going to celebrate our 49th annual Invitational Glass Award Exhibition online like we did last year, and it will be scheduled for May 1st with some VIP days before. So we're going to be inviting artists to that as of last year and looking forward to it. During that exhibition, we're going to be having a very special presentation celebrating artists who have been inspired by the COVID pandemic. And I'm going to invite Tim to come talk about that, if you wouldn't mind joining me, because he is one of the artists invited.
Certainly, it's for a lot of you who knew David McFadden from the Museum of Arts and Design in Columbus Circle in Manhattan. He is coming out of retirement for this show. So it'll be great for those of you who missed him. We can welcome him back. And I've already had an email this morning from Luke Jerem saying, wait a minute, I want to get in there. So there's going to be some interesting work, and we'll present it during the International.
Yep, right around there. And we're hoping that it gets some attention, hopefully with your help, and we're able to continue this experience maybe through museums and whatnot. So
we'll post a call for entries on many of the sites starting today. So
yeah, well, we'll work on the details, but it's going to be a very interesting show, and there's a lot of talent ready to go or will be motivated to create for this exhibition. In September, hopefully around early September, we want to get together, Pending the World, for an exhibition here at Habitat, and you're all invited. We have a tentative date of September 11th of 2021. Looking forward to seeing all you guys face to face. We'll see if it happens. Our fingers are crossed. We're going to set the gallery up and put some events together to have a physical show and celebrate 50 years of Habitat. Established in 1971, we've got to 50 years with Ferdinand Hampson starting the gallery, passing it to us and beyond. And it's such an amazing event to be part of, actually getting together physically and showing the work of the artists today and then beyond. And so please note that date, and we're looking forward to celebrating it with you because it is an important one. Another exhibition we have running all year long is called Not Grandma's Glass, and it's celebrating artwork that is not in Grandma's Glass art collection yet. And so far, we've opened up the presentation with the first artist, Morgan Pearson, who is an amazing, talented artist, and we did a Zoom with her, followed by Matsuke, who will be this month. We moved him to February 13th. And these are artists that are pushing the medium, and we're trying to create awareness for the medium for younger people who collect in a different manner. But you guys will see the talent in these artists because of the experience many of you have with glass, and we're honored to be part of this. And it's a competition where 12 artists are invited, 1 per month. And then when it's over, 4 of them will be selected to continue the exhibition or make a new exhibition next year, and 8 new artists will be brought on. So it's something very innovative that we're promoting. We just got published an article in the AACG magazine. We were in a New Glass magazine in Sweden, and we're trying to get more exposure for this, and we're hoping you'll help. So stay tuned for future events. So Glasstress is now, we'll talk about that with Tim at 4 o'clock. Peter Bremer's My Life as an Artist. So now I'll pass the baton over to Tim in the Boca Raton Museum. And thank you all for having me today.
Thank you, Eric. So on my section here coming up, I'm going to be discussing a little bit about Glasstress, which is a show. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Glasstress first, and then I'll jump into the process for having a piece in that show and what it was like to do this overseas during COVID. It was kind of an odd moment. So many of you know Adriano Marengo. Glasstress is the brainchild of the great Adriano Marengo, and it is a sanctioned collateral exhibition of the Venice Biennale of Arts. It has been there since 2009. So the mission of Glasstress is to kind of show how contemporary artists use glass as an incomparable medium for their self-expression. And many of these artists have never touched glass, but they are given gaffers to help them do that. And it continues Peggy Guggenheim's mission to bring fine artists such as Picasso to Murano and exposing them to glass, assigning gaffers to them, and they can complete their vision to something they may not have had access to prior. Glasstress 2009, the very first one, was curated by the glass expert Rosa Barovia Mintasti and the art historian Laura Mattioli Rossi. So you may know those people. Of course, it was mostly European at that time, but it was also, the first one was mainly historical display of masterpieces that are crossovers. So they had work from Joseph Albers, Man Ray, Louise Bourgeois, and they had Rauschenberg. You all remember the big glass tire. So it started as that kind of historic. But at the same time, Adriano had invited several people like Tony Craig and Fred Wilson, who you know very well from the Whitney and others, to come and also participate, and he would help them produce these works in glass. That is really what it's much more about today, bringing in major artists to work with glass. Currently, if you represent any country in the pavilion for your country at the Venice Biennale, if you're the person who does, you are invited to make glass at Barengo Studio. So that's why when you look at many of these names, you may not recognize them at first, but I guarantee you, if you look them up, you will be shocked at how accomplished most of these artists are. So Glass 2021 is currently at the Boca Raton Museum. It's already opened, and after that, a similar but not identical show will go to the Hermitage in St. Petersburg, Russia. And there are even bigger plans in 2022 I can't even go into yet, but prepare to have your teeth fall out. So let me go into mine a little bit here. All right, I'm going to take over the screen. And we're going to put this up. All right, slideshow, play from start. Okay, I'm going to go to this next one. Now, the first thing that happened was earlier this year, I got a call from Adriano saying, come and have lunch, and this was actually a couple years ago. Come have lunch, meet Ai Weiwei. And I said, oh, he doesn't know Ai Weiwei. What are you talking about? So I went to lunch at a place near my home, and there's Ai Weiwei sitting have lunch with me. That was my first introduction to Glasstress. I was not in it at that time, but I was still amazed. Adriano seems to know everyone in the fine art world. This is the piece that came out of that process. Earlier this year, when he called me in February, I hadn't realized it, but the new pandemic coming out of China really triggered a lot of memories I had, because this is my second pandemic. I lived through the AIDS crisis, so when this pandemic started, I hadn't realized I had a lot of repressed memories. And he called in late February, and I had to have it shipped by March 15th, or I think it was even before that. So we had to hurry. We had to hurry quickly, because what are you going to do? Its original name was Justinian's Oculus, because Justinian was the emperor from Rome who was living in Constantinople, who was the first emperor to ever get the Black Plague. While he survived, 1/5 of Constantinople did not. As the plague, my first plague, 14 of my friends who passed, 8 in 1 year, still has left kind of a indelible memory in my mind. Very difficult topic, but I thought I wanted to honor the tradition of Glasstress. I wanted to honor that rich history of Italian Renaissance and Baroque. I wanted to have this be not only something that looked like it was from that period, but also very contemporary. We'll move on. So what we had to do is, we were making the piece in Adriano's studio over there, because I now had larger kilns than I'm used to. So this piece, 33 by 33, I couldn't have made in my studio, but I could in Adriano's studio. At that time, we did not know that everything was going to shut down. But it was quickly becoming apparent that we had to ship immediately anything that was going to be made. So instead of sending him concepts, ideas, and waxes, we made a mold of this piece. We first made it here in the Washington Glass School. We actually made it out of wax as we went through it. So I'd had many faces here that I've made over the years, and we pressed all those into work until we made the very first one all in wax in our back room here. I took the color out of this so I could decide colors on the future piece. At that point, after we had all of these waxes in place, as you see it, we then had to make a mold, because we couldn't send waxes to Venice, because unfortunately, the difficulty with that is that the wax could melt. And so it was just starting to heat up. We didn't know for sure what would happen. So we had to make a gigantic rubber mold. And indeed, this is that mold in our back room. That was about 3 feet across. Poor Terry had to get up and pry this thing up from the table. It weighs an unbelievable ton. but it is much safer for us to send the work out this way. Just to give you an idea of what the work is, the actual work, what it's about, is that being as this is my second pandemic and I've lost so many souls to both. I even know people that I've lost now in this pandemic. You know, it's strange that the mind will forget so much of what only this moment is past, and yet hold clear and bright every memory of what happened years ago, of men and women long since dead. Yeah, but who can say what's real, what is not real? I mean, I can't believe that my friends are gone and when they're still whispering in my ear, especially at night. So they still remain a living truth in my mind. So I picture this as the oculus that Justinian looked into, the mirror that he looked into to see those people that were passing. But it has a secondary topic in this as well. We are so thankful for those care workers that have stayed behind, have kept us alive, who are handing out shots, who are being with our loved ones when they pass in these hospitals. So this is also an homage to those people who also helped us in those essential workers that have kept our world going during this time. So that was the premise of the piece. They loved the concept in Italy, and so now off it went. This is the first this is the first mold that they did. You see, this is my outside mold, and this is the first wax casting of that. The middle is a white plaster one to make sure that this stayed in that round period. They use this beautiful mold color. I wish I could get that color in glass. I love that color. So this is the very first wax with a plaster inset of the center so they could keep it round as they were casting it. As beautiful as that gorgeous frame is in this color. Here it is. This is the first plaster they did of those pieces. And some of you may recognize some of these, and I'll show you that as it comes up. There it is, the first wax of it. This is actually me on a piece I did for Ferd Hampson's birthday one year. I kept that mold, and there it is me. Here I am with no hat and a wig on because I needed a woman for another project. So, well, I had both. Here's, Michael Janus. He's in there. I think there's Paul Stankard. I've got Dale Chihuly. You'll recognize some of the people in there, but a lot of these people aren't meant to be recognized, and they're not really meant to be those people. They're really people from all over the world, all sexes, all ages, all races, put into one piece, and including with these skulls and death around them, because that's what the world was facing at that time. We were only just beginning to get the gist of what was going to be happening with the pandemic. I had to pick color because I was supposed to fly over, by the way, and I was going to be there twice during the process. And Judy Chicago was having a hard time getting her mold out too. So I managed to get my shippers to pick up Judy Chicago's molds and my molds and ship them out there simultaneously. But I never got out to oversee it. So everything you see here was done over WhatsApp or Zoom, in other words, that we had to do this by video. And we had weekly meetings with some of the best casters on earth. They have a master casting program. You've heard of master blowers. Well, the same thing with master casters. I can't stress highly enough the skill of the master casters in Adriano Bringo's studio. He just bought a large factory in Murano, the largest one there, and he is now going to turn that into the largest casting facility. He says in Europe. I don't know if he's been to Czechoslovakia, so I'm not sure, but I'm going to guess that the largest, certainly in Italy, he's going to do his best to get to. And it could be, knowing Adriano, it might end up being the largest in Europe. You never know with Adriano. He is the dreamer of all time. I didn't want a happy color with this piece because it was, in so many ways, it was a very emotional, intense piece. And I thought to make it a happy piece was not exactly, I just wanted it to be a somber piece, not a sad piece, because I'm exalting and celebrating those people, but I didn't think it needed to be happy. So this beautiful olive green they had, I thought was just the perfect thing for that. Here are the molds now that the wax has been melted out, one of their large kilns. They have a beautiful, 4-foot wide kiln, which I would die for here, 4-foot by 8-foot kiln. And that's where they go into. There they are without that. So they've melted out the wax after being covered in plaster. And that's what's been left behind in those kilns. Here's the empty, that's not with glass, that's just the depth of those flowers around the outside. The other part of it is, here's the olive on the right, and this, for the center part, I used uranium glass. The reason I used uranium glass is I felt that I wanted to show the virus, the danger that the virus posed. So in a way, it was a poisonous virus. And I thought the uranium glass was the right way to kind of bring that center out and talk about how dangerous the virus was. And all this time I'm being triggered by the deaths that had happened around me so many times and so many losses that I've come now to be okay with it. But at first it was very hard. There they are right after the first firing. So this is the actual color of the center with all the faces. You see how intensely bright, it's all that beautiful uranium glass. But I had to figure out a way to kind of knock it back. I love this picture because it shows the edge of my piece coming out of the mold. That's Ai Weiwei chandelier behind me, and the don't take photography piece. I thought it said it all in one moment, but it was so rewarding to be there in the show. This is my second show with Ai Weiwei at Glasstress. This is my second Glasstress, and to have it done in that same studio meant a lot to me anyway. Here is the glass frame as it first came out. A beautiful thing in and of itself. I think I may have to have Megan X1 send it to me, but it's just a gorgeous, intensely beautiful frame. I use it here in different ways, but we had found this frame with cross hatching that you see around there. We dug out the bull nose in 4 places. We added these flowers, and that's what we made the mold from, so that we could kind of create our own Italian Renaissance frame. And the process, by the way, is an 8-month process. We got this shipped just before they shut down Italy from shipping. So my piece was the last piece the shipper picked up to even go there. So we fortunately got Judy Chicago's and mine to Italy just in time, because otherwise it was such a lengthy process, and they only had so many kilns with a lot of backup on it, that if we didn't get them there then, we might not have made it into this Glasstress. I was so very happy when the people there loved the piece when they took it apart, and the workers loved it just to death, and that always means a lot. Adriano called me to tell me how much this piece meant to him, so that's kind of a reward you can't ever ask for. Here they are, they're grinding and polishing the back of the faces because we mirrored that. Since it was an oculus, we thought it should be a mirrored piece, and that is what it is. So when you look into those faces, they're mirrored from behind. There it was before we did anything. You notice it doesn't look quite like how you see it. This is when it first came out of the molds. So you still see the plaster on the green. You still see that beautiful neon uranium glass center. But what we had to do is we had to rub ink into this. So we rubbed in a substance called vitriol, which is a transparent oil paint. And we rubbed it into all the faces, because you see without it, the faces don't have much definition. But when you rub that in, you see the faces. So that was rubbed into that. It also knocked back that uranium yellow-green just enough to make it fit with the olive. And we knew that was going to happen from the beginning, because I've used this uranium many times with vitriol over it. So that knockback of that bright yellow-green into that kind of very intense olive green that it became was an intentional thing. Everywhere they transported it, they had to kind of put it on this rack and then move it everywhere. And it took many people to transport this. I apologize to the Boca Raton Museum for giving a piece that might be a little tough to install. It wasn't anything intentional. The entire piece weighs about 190 pounds. We had to design a special bracket for it. And the way this worked is we have this stainless steel plate that goes on the back. This bracket goes into the wall, and the piece actually has some pegs that go out and slides onto that piece. making it easy to install for the museum, which was, I'm sure, a sigh of relief for the museum. Here you see the stainless steel backing going on, and they haven't put the insert in. Oops, they haven't put the insert in quite yet. Again, you kind of get a look of that that olive green museum in the dark. Once it's lit, it just kind of glows on there. And there you see the lip around that stainless steel, so that there's also mechanical holding of that as well. So that's along the side in the back. There you see it. There you see the color knocked back a bit with the black in there to take it out from being so intense. I actually at one point wanted it to be lit with 2 spots on the frame from 11 and 1, and a wash of UV black light on the front to have it glow. But I think that challenged even the Boca Raton Museum staff. So I just said, well, I'll take what it is. So there you see the details of this piece. And there you see, there's what the final piece looked like. I'm probably, this is one of the pieces I'm most proud of that I've ever made. This will be in the Boca Raton Museum till September, and then I think it goes to Habitat after that. But it is a piece that I couldn't be prouder of. All right, if anyone has any questions, this would be the time that you would unmute and ask any questions that you want. I'm going to unshare the screen.
I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
As far as the glass is concerned, didn't you say that there was, sometimes you needed to take some material off, put some material on, and with crystals, it's harder to shape it?
Well, I did. It was all cast as a single piece, and it was lead crystal, not like crystals that you would find on like a chandelier or rocks. This was cast in just a substance called lead crystal. So it was cast in that single piece in the frame, and then a single piece on the inset.
Oh, because at the end, it seems like you had people's faces all over it.
There are always pieces that are faces all over it. The centerpiece had those pieces. Those are those people that I try to remember during this time.
Is it a mold or is it?
It is a rubber mold that we made here in Washington, D.C., and then shipped to Italy. They have that mold at the Marengo studio there.
Nice. And I'm just curious, why did you have that thing that said no photography? That sign.
I didn't. Marengo Studio put that up because those are people's private works, including Ai Weiwei's, and they don't necessarily have permission from those artists to do it. I'm sure Ai Weiwei will forgive me for that tiny glimpse.
Tim,
Oh, because this is being recorded. That's why, because all your artwork is going to be recorded. So that's why.
Yeah. Ellen? Yes, ma'am.
yeah, oh, did you actually discuss this piece with IYY, or was he just doing something separate?
He was doing something separate. He has a chandelier that's in the Glasstress 2021 show. Sadly, because of COVID, the installers could not get over to Boca Raton. Maybe they will later. That would be a great thing. He has a white chandelier and a black chandelier. You saw the black one in the background. He's been working on those for several years in that studio, and he's there quite frequently. He just wasn't working on it all the time. But it's there, and he works on it pretty regularly.
Tim, hi. Will your piece be a unique piece?
So we have this mold, and that at this point, they've said they're going to make 3 of them, one in olive, one in a deep blue, and one in kind of a rust color. They making the blue one that's going to the Hermitage, and then I can't tell you the 2022 plans because they're private for Adriano, but the rest ones for those. The difficulty was with Glasstress isn't like other shows sometimes. It doesn't travel here and stop and travel there. They have overlapping Glasstress shows. So for me, I wanted to be really certain to be in some of those shows, and the only way to do it is to make the 3 different colors of it. That's the only green one. So that's the only blue one. That's the only rust one. That's, as far as I know, that's the only pieces that are ever going to be made.
I'm just curious. What is that thing that looks like it's polishing? What is the name of that machine? It goes over and then it smooths it over. smooths the glass, or what does it do to the glass? It's like you
It's called a polisher.
polisher. What does that do to the glass?
It polishes it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it doesn't shape it, it's only to like shine it?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have different people who speak in different tongues, like different languages?
Yes. Many people are represented, those people.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions?
Machine called that polishes it. What's that machine called? The what?
It's a polisher.
The polisher? Thank you.
Sure.
Tim, I have a question.
Yes.
I remember your exhibition on the East Coast, and I just want to say thank you and congratulations on such a stunning piece.
Thank you so much.
And also one that is resonates with everyone so much. I understand it was probably quite painful to create it, but have you thought about continuing the series regarding pandemic-related pieces?
Well, certainly I began my glass history in the 90s, reacting to AIDS, and the whole first 25 pieces I ever made were totally focused on that pandemic. I left that towards the end of that, and in 2000, I switched to much broader topics. They had told me here, I'll give you, back then, I was told by my doctor I had 1 year to live, because that's what they told you back then. They didn't know. And I was a young kid. I was very young. And so being told you have 1 year to live, at our age now, we try to get our head wrapped around it, and it's not even easy that way. But at 20 something, I could not get my head wrapped around it at all.
Yeah.
So I had remembered there was an aunt who had died recently. I kept imagining her kind of looking down and guarding me, looking after me. So I made those. I was dealing with that crisis. So in a way, I deal with any internal crisis I have with art. I believe that's why I'm alive. I think creating art has actually kept me alive during this. I really believe that. So on that particular one, I left it behind a little bit, that topic, because as they said, well, you might have 2 years to live, I kind of got the idea that maybe they weren't sure I was going to die in a year. So I started making broader work with a broader appeal. But now that this came up, I am triggered terribly, especially as I start losing people. And I've already lost several people, someone I knew very well, to COVID. And as that happens, I'm sure that I will react again. That's how I deal with the emotional world. I make work about it. And so in fact, I would bet you every artist in this room would agree with that, because there's nothing more healing. Go ahead.
Tim,
I'm
can I ask you something? Excuse me, can I ask something?
Sure. Go ahead.
Because that I was lucky that I left Italy just last day when it was closed, yes. And I saw a few things what you said about, but why I want to ask you about your piece, because you said that this was about pandemic, on that you want to show this your feelings and things like this. Why you use faces of people who were quite, I hope that they are healthy, and they didn't have any problems during this pandemic, instead to people who were affected, yes, somehow.
So I did make quite a few different ones at the early time, but with they're getting ready to shut Italy down, I had to go to the faces I'd already made. I don't really want them. I don't want people to think of Paul Stanker in their sick. I want people to realize that they are representative of so many people around the world. There's old, there's young, there's black, there's white, there's Asian, there's women, I wanted to have as many representations of different people, because it was pretty obvious by March that the world was going to go through this together. So it was important for all that to happen. And I used some of the older faces that I had just to represent those personalities. I think what's his name, Jordan, the basketball players. I just wanted to have as much diversity as I could, so that anybody who comes up to look at that piece feels like someone they know is in that piece. That's really the reason. If I'd
Okay,
had
but is it any
more
face?
time, I would have used new ones, right?
But is it any face which was affected by this pandemic, or AIDS or anything like this?
A lot of those were people affected by HIV early on, because some of those pieces were even from that time. We had the mold still. Not everybody is affected by it, but I'll tell you this, not everybody is affected by AIDS, but everyone's affected by COVID, everyone. Even those faces you see in there have had great impact with this. So I think that everybody in that whole thing has been affected by, I think all of us have been affected by COVID.
No, yeah, of course,
Yeah, horrible, that's right. So that's why I didn't worry
Tim,
necessarily.
I got a,
Yes, sir. Go, Corey.
I got a question for you.
Sure.
I know that I've seen people in front of your work just knees buckle, where they're just completely tearing up, very emotional over the work. And I know that this piece was a physical undertaking. I can tell how difficult it is to make, but content driven and understanding your past and what you've gone through and the connection you have while you were creating this sculpture, was it emotionally difficult for you?
I'm going to tell you, it was actually the opposite. It was cathartic because I was creating something in homage of those people. And I felt like I had left that behind when I left back the HIV work so years ago. So when I was triggered by this so badly, and I hadn't even realized the level of the PTSD I was going through until it was kind of triggered by this, it was my chance to kind of rectify that. I could put out this homage to everybody I lost and that everybody's losing all the time by the thousands every day around the world. So for me, I was healing that. So it actually felt great. I think most of the artists here, when we do difficult work like that, we love the aspect that it's also amazingly healing to us and hopefully healing to the viewers who are actually seeing the piece. That's what we hope for as we go through. And I do have a lot of people cry and stuff at some of the work that I've done over the years, and I don't mean for that, but it's just because a lot of people have experienced, quite a few of the things that I've gone through as well.
Tim?
Yes, sir. I hear a voice.
Oh, it's Larry.
Oh, Larry, yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to know if there are any other questions from the audience.
I was wondering, talk a little bit about your creative process with this piece. Do you do preparatory drawings in advance? Talk a little bit about that, please.
And I'll do this quick because I only have a few more minutes, but I will say that I had to do it really quick. There was no time for drawings. It was, the deadline was coming down crushingly fast as I was arranging shipping and the 5,000 other things that had to happen. So I just started making. To me, it was easier to work with my hands and a pencil. So I started taking everything I could and piling into that frame. But you're only seeing the ones that got in there. Other things.
You need to come in right now.
Anyway, so that's why that was the process. The process was I had to make something that felt super healing to me so that others could see it and hopefully they would see that same connection to what was happening. And actually, I hope nobody here sees that and thinks of COVID as taking away. I'm hoping that none of you have losses near you, although it seems like it's going to be hard for people to not feel that loss at this point. I think it's going to affect us all one way or the other and very soon. Okay, I think we're closing this section up unless there's any other questions.
I had a quick question for you, Tim.
Yes, ma'am. Just
one quick one. Are you born and raised in DC? And then just what you just said, but in general, I know you said, why glass? You talked about it a little earlier. Why glass, not drawing, not sketching, not painting?
Sure.
Why that as a medium rather than the other, or do you do both? And were you born and raised in DC and how that, affected your choices?
Third generation Washington, DC native. I live a block from where my grandmother had her house.
Okay.
Right by Roosevelt High School.
I know that.
There you go. I live right over there. I'm lucky enough to be in the middle of the city overlooking a beautiful park and a lake. And, in fact, on top of the hill across the street from my house is Lincoln's cottage where he wrote the Emancipation Proclamation out my front window. So, but why glass? As an 8-year-old kid, my mom and dad took me up to Corning, like a lot of parents do, to see the glass blowers. And I was so fascinated that I decided I wanted to try that. And I put it off until the terminal diagnosis. Now I got to stop because now we are going to move forward here. I'm going to introduce you to Larry, who is Larry Siebrich, who is the director or the current president of the James Renwick Alliance. I'm sure, oh my God, I might have got my thing wrong. Yeah. Art Alliance for Contemporary Glass. There's a ton of James Winwick Alliance people here. Larry is the president of the Art Alliance for Contemporary Glass, and he's going to talk to you just a little bit. Thank you all for listening to me about my piece, and we'll talk another time. I'll go to if there's any questions in the chat thing, I'll go and see if I can answer them now. Okay, Larry, you're on.
Okay. Can you all hear me? You can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
So, Tim, I want to thank you for that incredibly personal, timely, and profoundly inspirational presentation about your work. I also want to welcome our AACG members who have stayed engaged with our organization during this pandemic, primarily through these weekly virtual meetups. Your commitment has been amazing. For this unique meetup today, which involves so many aspects of the Glass Coast Weekend Habitats, special exhibitions, Imagine Museums programs, Tim's presentation, and the Glasstress at Boca, I would like to extend a very special welcome to all of our guests who have registered for this event. You're obviously interested in contemporary art made from the medium of glass, or would you not be here with us today? If you would like to help the AACG mission to further the development and appreciation of art made from glass by helping to inform and support all of the cultural communities interested in this art medium, then please consider joining the AACG as a member. Your membership will entitle you to our award-winning print and online newsletters, which will inform you about everything happening with art made from glass, both nationally and internationally. You will be entitled to unique travel opportunities, visits to world-class collections, VIP admissions to select art fairs, and most importantly, a close sense of community with your fellow members. To our existing members, please consider upgrading your membership. For information on membership, please visit our website at aacgglass.com or contemptglass.org. And those websites will be available on the Zoom chat. So now it gives me great pleasure to thank the Boca Raton Museum of Art for sharing with us their groundbreaking 2021 exhibition, Glasstress. You will see how art made from glass has evolved into the 21st century. It is an honor to introduce you to Claire Klum, the Director of Education, and Dwayne Smith, the Adult and Community Program Coordinator of the Boca Raton Museum of Art. Claire and Dwayne will lead us through the exhibition Glasstress. Please submit your questions during this presentation on our Zoom chat, and I'll try to screen those, and we'll have ample opportunity to ask both Claire and Dwayne questions. So Claire and Dwayne, you're on.
Great.
Hello,
Well, thank
everybody.
you, Larry. So we're really happy to be here today. I'm going to share my screen, and Dwayne and I will be conversing a little bit about art in general. So thank you for having us. AACG, Imagine Museum. I was there about 4 years ago. So I can't wait to come back and see how things have changed and improved based on your comments. Habitat Gallery. We used to have a gallery here in Boca Raton, and I do remember those days of going and visiting it. And then Tim Tate, boy, I tell you, he is one well-connected man, and I'm so happy to have met him and shared with him this love that we have for art. So thank you, Tim. He's been so sharing for us. Thank you. All right, so this second segment, what we're going to do is to talk a little bit about the institution, the Boca Raton Museum of Art, and the Glasstress exhibition. The agenda will include an overview of the collection, 2 videos of Glasstress. Then we'll take a Q&A break, just for those that have questions that they really want to have answered right away. And then the second segment, the second half of the hour, will investigate specific works within Glasstress. Dwayne and I will share that with you, as well as some works within our permanent collection. So you see an image here of the Boca Raton Museum of Art. I have to do one thing though, I'm sorry. I realized I did not share my sound for the slideshow. So take two here. All right, everyone can see the slide again? Great. All right, so a little bit about the museum. The history of the museum began in 1950. We were called the Art Guild of Boca Raton, and it encompassed not only the visual arts, but also the literary arts, music, and theater. And as the community grew, so did the organization. In the early 60s, we built our first building. We expanded many times. And in 1985, we became the Boca Raton Museum of Art. In 2001, we opened a second campus in Meisner Park, closer to downtown, where the museum is located. And that's the image that you see on the screen here. The art school remained at the original building, and we continue to offer youth and adult classes 7 days a week through a variety of media. We did pause a little bit for COVID, but we are back and functioning in a COVID protocol environment. You can't keep people down when they want to make art. We have a really supportive and active board. We have a growing membership, fabulous sponsors, exciting exhibitions, and engaging programs. And the museum is motivated to supporting not only our local community, but also our community around the world. So a little bit about the museum collection. The collection contains ethnographic works from West Africa and the Americas, mainly Maya art, and you can see one here, along with art from the 19th, 20th, and 21st centuries. Specifically, our collection has photography, drawings, prints, paintings, video, and sculpture. So we just gave you a sampling of works here on the screen. From the top left, you see a painting by Georges Rouault, sculpture by Louise Nevelson, self-portrait by Jose Clemente de Orozco, and a photograph, an iconic photograph by Graciela Iturbide. On the bottom from the left, we have a Maya jaguar vessel. We have Afghan Girl by Steve McCurry, a wonderful drawing by George Seurat, and finally a large sculpture by Julio Larraz. So if you haven't been here, it's well worth the trip. Of course, I'm a bit biased, but we really, we have excellent exhibitions here. All right, so let's get on to the exhibition. I must tell you, we've had numerous challenges over the last 3 years as we plan that far out. Museums plan their exhibitions 3 to 5 years out. Most of the challenges, of course, were mainly revolving around the COVID-19 pandemic. At this time, we have secured all the works. The works were shipped over mainly from the Barango studio. And we finally got all of them here, safe and sound. And we installed most of them, but not all of them. The Barango installation team was unable to cross the ocean. And so therefore, the most challenging and delicate works are still in their crates, waiting for the arrival of the installation team. You can check out our website, it's bocamuseum.org. And if you click on the tab at the top that says art, and then look for works on view, and you can see updates as to how the last few works, the timetable for that is. We're still unknowing. It's not known what will happen when the team will be able to get over. But like I said, the majority of the works are up. It's just the big challenging ones that have yet to be installed. So you can see here, the exhibition is on view. It's here until September 5. So when you feel safe, we hope that you will come and visit the museum and take a look at Glasstress. We also have a couple other exhibitions, temporary exhibitions on view, as well as our permanent collection. All right, so now what we're going to do is we have a almost 14-minute video, promotional video that will give you great oversight, great overview of the exhibition. It also interviews some of the artists that were able to give insight to the process. Tim did a great job giving us his personal process. And so we have some other artists as well, and then some images from the studio. So I'm going to go ahead and start us off.
It was a kind of shock of recognition. The art world realized that glass was not only a material for applied art or for craft or for illumination, for example, you know, the chandelier, but was potentially a great material for contemporary art.
I always believed that the material is fundamental in the work. I was invited by the curator to participate in Glasstress, and I thought this is a great opportunity to try a new material. I have never tried to work with glass before because I know that the technique is so difficult. And I happen to be a sculptor that likes to put the hands in the material. So for me, glass was a fascination. At the same time, I had a certain sense of not being entirely with it. So I decided to make an installation with those chairs. And since every one of them is so distorted and fragile, I thought that the best way was to make a grid that was very regimented, you know, in order to just even show even more that fragility.
It's something I've always wanted to put my hands in this heat. It was interesting. Adriano invited me to do a project, and we just sent a few drawings and pictures and tried a few things. And it is very different to be here. I feel much more connected to the work now because I feel the work involved, the heat, the precision, the way. The teamwork, this choreography of humans together to bring that piece together. What an experience, and what a magical gathering of energy of people but material together. It's been a wonderful pleasure.
the main idea was to try to reactivate the ancient activity and this tradition, and also link to the secret of glassworks and glass masters. The thing that has been revealed to me working with glass and the maestro is the real paradox that exists with the fragility of the material and how actually it's complicated to make and to produce.
When you come here, it's like coming into a playground. You know, you look everywhere and you find new type of details, ideas, colors, and it's really super inspiring. Glass is a fascinating material to me because it's a mix between fragility, but at the same time you need the strength of a craftsman who has done that all his life to be able to manipulate it, and also you don't know exactly how it's gonna come out. So I like the fact that you have that part of coincidence, that part of serendipity into it, a mix between you know, the intuition of the artist, the intuition of the craftsman, the expertise of the craftsman, and the coincidence of life that you just don't control. We have here a drawing of anatomy. It's like an anatomical chart that shows the inside of the human being, the veins, the arteries. But it's also a kind of river seen from the sky, or a tree. So it's an image that shows how the forms in nature can be connected, whatever is the form in the end, you know, human, animal, geography. It's also about the idea of balance. So how everything in nature has its kind of balance, what we also call homeostasis, and how that balance can be broken in a second. And that works for the rivers, that works for the trees, that works for the air that we breathe, that works for us as human beings. And that's what fascinates me with glass, is that it's really a question of a click. Everything can change in a second.
Well, it's almost impossible to come to a glass workshop and not to be fascinated with the material. Glass is so flexible. Glass can become almost anything you want. It belongs already to the creative realm. It gives you so much freedom. It's very tempting to work with glass, but at the same time, you feel very insecure. But it's, at least for your mind, for the creative processes, it's very healthy. The real interesting thing to work with Berengo is that you have such a wide range of possibilities. Every time I'm here, I walk in here and I leave here after a day or two with ideas to do 10 different new things. You know, luckily you forget about them at the end.
I think glass is one of the really strange things of our universe. It is absolutely strange. Melted sand, what an idea. I think the biggest challenge is still the biggest challenge. It doesn't change. And it is that glass is too pretty. It is a big problem because the prettiness of the glass takes over. It's very easy to make something that's only pretty. make something shallow or banal, or to make something that's just pretty. My idea of glass is that it is interesting when it is broken, because the brokenness vibrates and is a little dangerous always. So it's not only pretty, but usually when glass is broken, it's prettier. But at the same time, you want to stand back a little bit. You don't want to be bothered by it, and it wants to announce itself to you absolutely.
Claire and Dwayne, are you there?
Yes, yes. We're just finishing up with the video.
Okay, so this might be a good time to take a couple questions.
Great, great. All right. Sure, we could do that.
Well, they're from the chat, so we're not going to unmute everybody. But there was one.
Unshare your screen, though, Claire.
Okay.
There was one question. Someone wanted to know what the end piece was for Vic Muniz. Is that in the show that we're going to see?
That is in the show that we have here now. It's up, and you'll see it in the next video, which is the exhibition from our galleries.
Okay, so we'll see that.
Yep.
And then Lucy Lyon, hi Lucy. She asked, who made the horses? Do you know who made the horses?
That was Ugo Rindinone. We'll see that also.
Okay, great. And then people want to know whether there's a catalog for the exhibition.
There is a catalog, and it's available at bocamuseum.org. And you go to the exhibition. So you look at art, you go to On View Now and Glasstress, and it'll take you at the bottom of that page. You can purchase the catalog right there.
Okay, fantastic. Let's keep going.
Right.
All righty. So a good thing to remember about the exhibition, as Tim has said about Glasstress, is that most of these artists are not familiar with glass, but there are a few that are practicing glass artists. But to be invited to this is such an excitement, challenging and terrifying as well. So you can see the artists, especially one of the young ladies there just talked about, oh my gosh, I'm here, I can't believe it. So it's really an exciting opportunity for them. And again, it's opened up for artists around the world. So there may have been artists that you saw there that you're not familiar with them, but they are now becoming internationally known. So the second video that we want to show you has to do with a walkthrough. So part of the challenge also with technology is we can't do a live feed and go into the galleries. It becomes pixelated, the sound isn't very good. So I'm going to let Dwayne take over for this walkthrough of the exhibition and the works that are installed right now.
Okay, so let's take a look at our space with the exhibition. We start here with Kohn van Mechelen, Collective Memory. 8 elements stacked on leather-bound books, the Encyclopedia of Human Rights, combined with Labiomista, the mix of life. We have a side view of Abdul Nasser Garam, the stamp with engraved glass, the Sudarshan Shetty outside the bubble, with the 3 Vic Muniz individuals back behind, and Yinju Zhen, the container of thinking, along the wall. We see Jimmy Durham strike twice, arranged facing each other, with Mario Kazum, the solitary one, floating above. Next, we take a look at Ugo Rondinone, An Ocean Away, with these 12 glass horses in beautiful shades of blue, all facing in different directions. They create delicate light games where they increase their pathos by reflecting light and projecting shadows in continuous motion against the white background. Here we have Erwin Worm with this piece called Mutter or Mother, which features these glass objects that have sprouted legs, hot water bottles with lace-up shoes. The artist uses his wry sense of humor to make people look twice, playing with the altering perceptions of objects and stereotypes to encourage the audience to reflect. Then we sweep around to another view, and we see the Vic Muniz, and then we will see the Yinju Zhen. Now here is Halim Al-Karim, Dust 12C. We see Tim Tate's Pandemic Oculus, which we learned about today, on the wall next to St. Clair Simmons' Innocence, an installation of 24 delicate, languid glass chair forms. Next to that, we have Nancy Burson's light and glass work, DNA Has No Color, with Laurie Provost's Cooling System 2 for Global Warming and Hard Connections in the corner. Thomas Schutte, Glass U on the table. And then we will finally get a closer view of the Vic Muniz individuals.
All righty, thank you, Dwayne. All right, so we had a Q&A planned for there, but we're going to keep on going on to the Glasstress just a little bit more in detail. So as mentioned, there are 34 artists in the show, and you can see the ones that are highlighted that we will not be talking about today, but we wanted to show them to you. So you have the Ai Weiwei chandelier that is not installed at this time. You have the Laurie Provost works that are on view, the Jimmy Durand that's on view, the Ugo Rondinone that's on view, the Shardashan Shetty, which is on view, the Abdul Nassar Garim, and Thomas Schutte, and they are all on view at this time. But we're going to delve into a few artists in particular, just so you can get some more information and insight into the exhibition. All right. If you could hold on just 1 minute, my slide is not advancing. All right.
Try the bottom left-hand side. There may be an arrow there.
Yep, I'm trying, oh, there we go. Okay. I hope it doesn't, let's see. Well, it came back up and it's spinning again. So I'm gonna stop sharing for a minute. Let me just restart the PowerPoint and see if we can't get back into it. Yeah, it says it's not responding. So I'm gonna have to start the PowerPoint back up again. So give me just a minute. So if there are any other questions while I'm doing it, fire away.
Could I ask the question?
Sure.
How far in advance do you engage with the Barango to decide to bring the show to Boca Raton?
Our curator, chief curator, Kathy Goncharoff, actually has been working on this exhibition for 3 years. This came after we did the first version of Glasstress in Boca Raton back in 2016, 2017. So, and then that she worked on for 3 years before that. So, you know, this has been, you know, a long process to be able to have two Glasstress exhibitions, you know, a good 6 years of working to be able to get these two exhibitions. When we had the last exhibition, it was very well received and people just loved getting to see it. I noticed that we had Devira Terragan here, and she actually came down and gave us a nice talk while we were while we had up the first Glasstress. So I just wanted to say hi.
Hi, how you?
Good.
It's good. It's good seeing you.
Nice seeing you.
Okay, so everyone can see our first featured artist. Excellent. All right. So sorry about that. So Halim Al-Karim was born in Iraq in 1963. He and his family spent his early childhood in Beirut, Lebanon. And at an early age, he was interested in art, specifically photography. The family returned to Iraq when he was nearly 10, settling in Baghdad. And he completed his undergraduate degree in ceramics from the Baghdad Academy of Fine Arts. And then later in 2000, he attended the Gerrit Rietveld Academy in Amsterdam. To escape compulsory military service under Saddam Hussein's rule during the first Gulf War, Al-Karim went into hiding in the southern Iraqi desert, living almost 3 years under a rock-covered hole. Really traumatic, of course. He attributes his physical and emotional survival to an elderly Bedouin woman, a nomadic desert living dwelling Arab, who brought him food and water. She also educated him on the Sufi mysticism and gypsy cult customs. Bedouins are really renowned for their hospitality, their honesty, and their fierce independence. And so I know some of that rubbed off on Al-Karim. Of course, this period had a profound effect on him, resulting in his everlasting commitments to self-discovery and the expression of his core beliefs of truth through art. So on the slide here, you can see on the right side, the left side, Al-Karim with his custom built large format camera. Yes, that's exactly, it's larger than a human's. And that's, he was showing that off at the Abu Dhabi Art Fair in 2015. He used this device, this large format camera, to revive a 19th century wet collodion technique that I'll explain in the next slide. Here's a few pieces of his. On the left is from his Urban Witness series, and on the right is from his Hidden Love series. So the production of elaborate decorative mirrors is an 18th century Murano tradition. And this Murano tradition matched so well with Al-Karim's focus on portraits. He surrounded or almost envelops his photograph with this huge mirrored frame. Al-Karim's work features a ghostly woman, a ghostly image of a woman. The title is Dust 12C, and it refers to the Sufi belief that women are goddesses that emerge from the dust. As a female, I have to say, I really like that one. It's also an homage to the Bedouin woman who sustained him. While I'm not privy or don't really know the actual process for creating the work, I believe the image was created first on a mirror, probably not in the Barango studio. But I can imagine the mystical woman waiting patiently at the Barango studio to be framed in grand style and rich color that you see here. So if you're wondering a little bit, what is the wet plate collodion process? Simply stated, it's an image that's exposed onto a glass or metal surface with applied chemicals that are wet. The process was predominant in creating photographs in North America and in Europe in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. And the collodion process had several advantages. It was more sensitive to light. The exposure time was reduced to 2 or 3 seconds, and the images were much sharper and clearer. But there were 2 major drawbacks to this method, and was improved later on. But the 2 drawbacks were it had to be completed while everything is wet, but also importantly, it was very dangerous because of the highly flammable ether and alcohol solution. So you remember old time movies where they show the blast going off, and that really was reflecting a reality. The solution was improved and modernized with an acetate so that it made it more stable and easily used, accessible for everybody. On the left here, you can see a detail of the frame, which is just beautifully rendered in this rich red. And here are some more close-ups for you to look at. The glass pieces are made separately and assembled and placed on the mirror. So you can see all the details in the above, on the top right, on the middle right. And then you can see the red dots and the gray vining. Those were applied, those were painted on afterwards. So you can see the red paint, the red dots were applied on top of the glass, on top of the mirror, and then the gray vines were painted on underneath on the back side of the glass. Sorry, the glass there. And then there's a mirror reflective below it. Halim Al-Karim has won numerous awards, been commissioned to create work, and invited to participate in many exhibitions around the world. He splits his time between Colorado and Dubai. Our next featured artist is Dustin Yellen, who lives in Brooklyn, New York, and is the founder and director of Pioneer Works, a multidisciplinary cultural center in Red Hook, Brooklyn. In tandem with running the center, excuse me, and in tandem with running the center, Yellen creates works that makes the hidden forces of nature and human commerce visible. So when you really think about that, he takes the hidden forces of nature and the human commerce visible. The artist combines modern technology with hinterglass painting, which you may know as reverse glass painting. So he has modernized that process, the hinterglass process, and he works primarily with a three-dimensional photo montage, where paint and images clipped from various print media are embedded within laminated glass sheets to form grand pictographic allegories. He calls them frozen cinema. And these works often examine an era known as Anthropocene, a time when human activity has impacted our climate and environment. So you can see here he is resting against one of his much larger works on both sides of him. And if you can really look carefully on the far right, you can actually see lines of the laminated glass plates that are all lined up. On the left here is an exhibition, one of his works up close, and on the bottom left, you can see the work in progress where he is painting on the glass sheets, creating his frozen cinemas. So just a reminder about hinterglass art. The original process started where glass was selected, plates were selected, and then the glass is sandblasted so that the media, the paint, could adhere sufficiently. And then the process where the artist would paint or draw on the reverse side. Yellen's pieces are not fired, so it's considered a cold glass technique. But once it's sealed, they are laminated. So once the sheets are laminated, the work is completely stable and will not fade. So the work in the show is titled Invisible Sisyphus, and it's here on the right side. It's on this metal platform. It's not as big as the works that you saw on the last slide. But through time, Greek mythology has provided artists with a treasure trove of stories and ideas. So if you don't remember the story about Sisyphus, let me remind you. So in Greek mythology, Sisyphus was the king of Ephyra and the reputed founder of the Isthmian Games, the festival of athletic and musical compositions to honor the sea god Poseidon. But Sisyphus was known for his self-aggrandizing craftiness and deceitfulness throughout his entire life. In fact, he tricked death twice. But after the second time of tricking death, the god Zeus punished him, forcing him to roll an immense boulder up a hill, only to have it roll down every time it neared the top. Thus, Sisyphus was repeated to eternity to this action. And so you can see the mountain here and Sisyphus, the stone here. It's really somewhat appropriate for this time in which that repetition and thinking about human folly. But Yellen puts a really interesting spin on the tale in his frozen cinematic pictograph and makes Sisyphus invisible. The title of the work is Invisible Sisyphus. So what is he doing? Is he highlighting our laborious and futile endeavors? Is he freezing time for us? You can see on the left side a close-up of the rock, and it's wonderful to see how he has these clouds that are really wistful in the work of art. All right, so let's look a bit closer at the endeavor happening underneath the mountain. On the bottom right, you can see a cave with stalactites in an open chamber. There are clothed humans with creature heads. Can you see the antelope here seated? And then there's a jaguar back here. There's a bird creature, humanoid bird creature here. And then there's other figures around it as well. And they're all around a central fire. You can also tell a little bit about the details. You can see the way in which Yellen draws on the glass, as well as the mix of the media of cutting, newspapers, magazine, images, and then collaboratively laying them over the numerous layers of the glass sheets to create this work. Really labor intensive and just wonderful. So now Dwayne will continue with a few more highlights from the Glasstress exhibition.
So now we'll take a look at the artist Dyke Blair. Dyke Blair is a New York artist who explores the relationship between painting and sculpture through mixed media installations. He creates gouache paintings of scenes of daily life that are in sharp contrast to his minimal, industrial, and abstract sculptures. The photorealistic still life paintings are often scenes of overlooked objects in our daily lives, such as different drinks on bar napkins, plants, or cigarettes on ashtrays. That examination of everyday objects is clearly represented in this work, appropriately titled Windex, the brand name of the ubiquitous glass cleaner. It was actually sold in glass containers when it was invented in 1933, even though we know it in its plastic containers today. In the next slide, we see details. You can see his really photorealistic painting style on this glass sculpture, getting the details of the bottle's label pretty precise. At Barengo Studio, Blair worked with its masters to meticulously replicate a super realistic Windex bottle. Next, we'll see the sculpture of Joyce J. Scott, titled Buddha Wind. The MacArthur Genius Award winner, Joyce J. Scott, is renowned for paying homage in her art to traditional craft, the humble artisans of the African-American communities, and Black heroines. She once depicted Harriet Tubman as Buddha in a continuing series using images of the religion's founder. This work, Buddha Wind, was made at Barengo Studio and embedded with handmade Murano beads. She states that through Buddha's countenance, I yearn for a path to enlightenment by air, on earth, in water, and through fire. All four elements are necessary to the alchemical process that turns sand into glass. This work features a glass avatar of Buddha with colored glass beads implemented with the artist's signature peyote-style stitch method, which you can see in the background of her portrait. She uses a free-form technique akin to improvisation in beadwork. This expertly constructed, DNA-like beaded lace forms symbolize wind and works to visually amplify the tension and connection between nature and humanity. The white beaded form moves between figures and social change, metaphorically like the wind. And then we will see the work by Vic Muniz. Brazilian land artist and photographer, Vic Muniz, who is known for the photographs of his mosaic images made from found objects, created a floating artwork for Venice's Grand Canal during the 2019 Biennale. In this work, he makes a connection between conspicuous consumption today and that of 18th century Venice. Wealthy aristocrats of the time commissioned Murano factories to create expensive, unique, hand-blown, and lavishly decorated wine goblets. Marco Barengo recently told us that Vic Muniz said, "The idea of Venice with me is about the movie Summertime, starring Katharine Hepburn, when she buys a Venetian goblet in a shop in Venice. He didn't want to create a normal goblet. He wanted the goblet to be big." So Muniz reproduced these absurdly ornate vessels in monumental scale. He also reaches back into religious and art history when the representation of the Grail in the forms of Venetian glass is prominently featured in works from Leonardo to Veronese's The Last Supper. He states, They celebrate our role as liquid life vessels and our effort to make it beautiful and meaningful.
Great, thank you, Dwayne. So now we're going to go that concludes the portion that we'll talk about with Glasstress. And now we're going to go into the museum's glass collection. And as you can see, we have a variety of works that we wanted to show you here. And again, these are works that we will not be talking about, but I wanted to share with you. So we have Ben Trey over here with Ninth Figure on the far left. In the top row, there's Littleton's work, Chihuly's work. And on the bottom row, you see Schaefer, Pulaski, Chartier, and John Kuhn. A well-known American artist, Richard Jolly, is a storyteller that delves into the human figure. Over his career, he has produced many series, vessels, monoliths, line drawing, busts, torsos, totems, which we have right here in our collection, mixed media constructions, prints, bronzes, drawings, and tabula rasa. Like the maestros of Murano, Jolly is adept with his chosen media and works each series until he has completed his illustration of the storyline that he wants to tell. This work, done in the 90s, well into his totem series, is blown and sculpted glass, and it reveals a universal story. There are components to it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 different segments to the totem. And like the totems that we know of the American Indian, he uses that to tell the story. So you can see the completed piece on the left, and on the right, there's a detail of the sculpture. Vivid hues and intriguing blown and sculpted forms really engage the visitor. There's a rich green, rich blues, yellows, and a lighter green at the top. But I have to stop for a minute and share a quick story with you about this work. Like most museums, we train docents, and we utilize them, of course, for our tours. About 4 years ago, one of the candidates marveled over this work. She was really intrigued, really wanted to use it in her tour. So to graduate from the museum, you have to have a graduating tour, go through 6 months of training. Anyway, she wanted to put this into her tour, and she began her research of the piece. And then one day before class started, she rushed in and she said, "I have such exciting news. I have found this work in a catalog, and it's different from the title of the one provided by us at the museum. So we had the title Affinity for this work." And she said, "I've seen it with one title. Here in the catalog, it's another title." So I encouraged her to reach out to Jolly and contact him, his studio, to resolve the issue. "Oh no," she exclaimed, "there is no way I could bother the artist." So with encouragement, we said, "Go ahead." They love talking and sharing information. So she did contact Jolly, and she corrected a mistake that we had. So erroneously entitled Affinity, our records now reflect the correct title as Cerebral Sustenance. So that's Richard Jolly. Another artist that is new to our collection, in fact, we're still waiting for it to be installed when the Italian team comes over, is this work by Song Dong called Glass Big Brother. So Song Dong was traditionally trained, but turned his back on academia after Tiananmen Square. He's known for sculpture, performance, photography, painting, installation, multimedia he does. But he's best known by American audiences for a 2005 major exhibition called Waste Not, and it was at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. In the exhibition, he installed 10,000 domestic objects collected by his mother, for he was grieving her passing. And so he reinstalled her belongings that illustrated the recent history of China, consumerism, and human values. So he's best known for that. But with our first Glasstress exhibition back in 2018, this work was installed. And it combines the beauty of traditional Venetian chandeliers with modern apparatus of social control. So if you look on the left side, you can see glass representations of cameras. So instead of using the usual Venetian beautiful colors, he replaced it with stark grays, blacks, and whites. And the striking chandelier cleverly includes the glass versions of surveillance cameras found not only in China, but all over the world. So from that exhibition in 2018, we were so enamored with the piece that we were able to acquire it with a generous contribution from Angela and John Dupre. And then we're going to look at Sabrina Knowles and Jenny Pullman's work. They are a Seattle-based team of sculptors working primarily with glass and steel, and they met while working at Pilchuck. From their earliest collaborative efforts, they have explored the feminine, the fluidity, the curvature, the strength, and the plasticity of both the female figure, the female curves and such that are also inherent in glass. The innate three-dimensionality of molten glass matches their design visions. The fluidity of the mediums fuels their enthusiasm and their direction for their designs. They're inspired by lots of different things, whether it's their mundane, day-to-day life experiences, their international travels, or their studies of ancient and contemporary cultures. But they always have an emphasis on women. Their intent is to create sculptural forms and assemblages that evoke the sensuous curves of the feminine and provide a narrative that embraces our common humanity. So in this slide here on the left side, you can see both staffs. And then on the right side, there's a detail of the bird staff, where they put a bird head onto, with wings, onto a human female torso and lower part of the body.
So next we'll move to an artist I'm sure everybody's familiar with, William Morris. William Morris was born in Carmel, California in 1957, educated at California State University in Chico, as well as Central Washington University in Ellensburg, Washington. In 1978, Morris arrived at Pilchuck Glass School and found work initially as a driver. Later, he worked with Dale Chihuly, the founder of the school, and eventually became his gaffer in the 1980s. Morris remained with Chihuly for about 10 years before deciding to form his own studio and develop his own artistic glass blowing. Morris was inspired by the myths and ancient cultures of the world, evoking images made by people who respected their environment and were mindful of their bonds with nature in everyday life. He studied rock carvings and paintings, as well as burial grounds and prehistoric artifacts, to develop a deeper understanding of the connection between humanity and nature. In this work, Petroglyph Vessel, symbols of North American stag and human hunters are depicted on this dramatic glass vessel. It is from the Petroglyph series that William Morris created in the late 1980s, this one in 1987. His Petroglyph series explored primitive cave art, which he interpreted with drawings of animals and other potent symbols in glass powders. After heating these on a steel plate, the powder drawings were rolled onto the vessel during the blowing process that you see here with the front and back. So we hope that you've enjoyed seeing a bit of our exciting exhibition and museum collection. Remember that Glasstress Boca Raton 2021 will be on view until September 5th. So we hope you'll come and visit and see everything in person. We have several upcoming programs that might be of interest. As you can see here on February 20th, Tim Tate will present for Artist at Work. We'll have a talk on March 7th with Susie Silbert, curator of post-war and contemporary glass at the Corning Museum of Glass. And then on May 16th, we'll have a talk with Dr. Christopher Maxwell, curator of early modern glass at the Corning Museum of Glass. So you can register now for these programs at the events page on bocamuseum.org. And while on bocamuseum.org, you can also purchase the new fully illustrated catalog of Glasstress Boca Raton 2021. We want to send special thank you to Art Alliance for Contemporary Glass, Lawrence Siebrich, Habitat Galleries, Aaron Shea, Tim Tate, and Fundación Berengo. And thank you all for taking part. So now we'll open again for Q&A with Tim and Lawrence.
All right, any questions you have for the museum or any of the other presentations today? If you do, unmute yourself and ask away.
When was the exhibition shown in Venice?
Glasstress started in 2009 there. I don't think this one, well, they're kind of ongoing. Was this one up in Venice first, Claire? No.
I don't believe so.
This is the first time it showed. They couldn't do Venice because Venice was shut down. So they had to ship it there. So this is unlike normally they show it in Venice first and then they travel it. This time they reversed that process and traveled it to the Boca Raton Museum because they just can't do it. However, next year they're having one.
But I have a feeling that, some pieces was, shown, during this art week, in Venice. And it was called also Glasstress, and it was in Berengo studio.
Yes, exactly.
Excuse me, the name of the artist who did the hot water bottles with lace-up boots?
That is Erwin Wurm, W-U-R-M. Usually works in metal sculptures.
Tim,
Yes, ma'am.
what is what's the diameter of your piece?
It's 33 inches across by 33 inches tall, right?
3 feet. Okay, that's
Just
right.
about,
You said that the mold, and I assumed that was the actual.
The mold was actually a bit bigger, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So are there any other questions?
How are the artists selected for Glasstress?
You have to be invited. Now, Adriano has a vision that is amazing. So there's no point if you're an artist to call him and say, I want to be in. It just unexpectedly comes because that's his vision. And so every time he calls, I'm beyond excited about it and so happy to be a part of it. So you can't really do it. He asked all the members who show at the Venice Biennale at the pavilions, he asked them to come and make work. All these things are at his personal vision and invitation.
On another hand, I have to say that on another hand, Adriano is very open for, people, even, artists which is not known, and he always welcome, he's very nice. He talk with them, he spent time, and, even, sometimes they can use his studio, even when they approach him, that I have to say that he's very open for new ideas, and if he's excited about something what new artists bring, he would invite them too.
Yeah, it's interesting. Adriano actually was a professor here at SUNY Stony Brook in New York. He was a literary professor and then returned to Italy and 30 years ago started Berengo Studio.
Wow, what a great literature professor, my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have a comment. The other thing that's interesting about the Glasstress during the Venice Biennale since 2009 is that not only has he invited artists really of pretty much international stature that have not had much experience with glass, he's wanted to introduce them to glass, but he's always included members of the studio glass movement that we're all more familiar with that have worked together. I mean, that's how Tim got invited. Karen Lamont was invited. I think Beth Littman. There's a whole list of contemporary studio contemporary glass artists that have worked together during this process, which has made this, I think the impact of this so terrific. The other thing I just wanted to comment on is that the first iteration that the Boca Museum had 3 or 4 years ago, and this one of the really interesting things, if you could go to the museum and get the catalog, is to read about the background and the impact that working with glass has made on artists that traditionally do not work in glass. And I think that connection, that merging of the general fine art world and contemporary art world with the interest that our members of the AACG have with the medium of glass really also make this incredibly impactful.
Yeah, it's really good to remember that these are artists. Unfortunately, there's hierarchy that used to put the term glass artist to separate them. That's been wiped away. It really has been. So these are artists that work with the media, as Larry said, the medium of glass.
So,
but he mostly, when he started, he mostly want to work with fine art artists, sculptors, and he want to introduce them glass because he was very, he felt that glass has, really power, in fine art, yes. But unfortunately, because still, glass is treated like, not like fine art, medium, that this is why he tried to work on it.
Yeah. I think he's one of the most important voices in contemporary art today in many ways.
And as Tim said, he is so well connected, so well read. I mean, it is just amazing. The man must never sleep.
Yes, it's true.
So I think we've been going for about 2 hours, and those of you who have persisted, I want to thank you.
Yeah, thank you, really.
Want to thank Aaron, Tim, Claire, and Dwayne for making this presentation so inspirational. And I really wish that we can all meet at the Boca Museum, at least be there in person and get this thing installed. So the best of luck and enjoy the rest of the Glass Coast weekend.
Yeah, thanks, Larry. And the website's up at glasscoastweekend.com. I'd love to get your feedback on the site, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you, AACG.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.